Step on up, sit down, twist off that bottle top, or crack open that can. And welcome to Porch Matters. This is Terry Cagle coming to you from my back porch. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. The name of this show is Authentic. It's been another gorgeous afternoon here that the good Lord has blessed us with. I hope that you and your loved ones have had some good days and some good times since we were last together. Since we were last together, the 4th of July has come and gone. Hopefully you were able to get together with friends and family and enjoy some fireworks and fellowship. Folks, I wanted to start this off today by sharing with you that because of you, this show is being listened to by people in Alabama, Georgia, North Carolina, Kentucky, Mississippi, D.C., Arizona, Florida, New Jersey, Virginia, Texas, Oregon, and across the pond in Sweden. I am truly grateful and humbled. Thank you for listening to us. Thank you for the feedback that we've been getting on our Facebook page. Thank you for the links that you've been sharing with your friends. Shows that you believe in us and what we are trying to do here. We are all just getting started here, and with your help, anything is possible. That being said, here we are at episode 2. On Porch Matters, our saying is this: big issues are just a friendly conversation. No topic is off limits. We take pride in being able to talk about anything with each other in an open discussion. Open discussion is one of the only ways you learn. Your perspective could be changed. You could change the perspective of others. Even if things get heated, at the end of the day, we all respect and love each other. That being said, disclaimer. We danced around talking about this topic because it is so sensitive. But right now, it's one of the elephants in the room that we can't ignore. Although this topic is sensitive, as well as a social and political hotspot right now, it is still a discussion that needs to take place, and common ground needs to be found on it. We've had a lot of bad and unfortunate things happen the past few weeks. On this episode, we talk about the death of George Floyd and the fallout from it. Also, just so you know ahead of time, you're going to hear a couple of sounds and probably scratch your head and wonder what it is. It's Jason pouring himself something to drink. I left it in there because I found it to be absolutely hilarious. I hope you do too. If not, give me some feedback on the Facebook page and I'll start cutting some of that stuff out. We really do hope you enjoy this episode. We have all said that so far it is our best one yet. So without further ado, let's get it started. Melissa, how are you doing today?
Much better now that I'm home, but that seems to be what I always say.
Yeah, it does, kind of.
I don't hate my job. I just hate some of the stuff that goes along with it.
Where did you have to go today?
I went to Upton, Kentucky from Reynoldsburg, Ohio.
Oh, Kentucky!
Well, see, I have to pass right through Cincinnati, and everybody has their own name for Cincinnati when you have to drive through it. I call it Cincinnati because I can't stand it. And some people call it Wreckinati because there's always a wreck.
Yeah, pretty much anybody that I know that drives a truck absolutely hates going through Cincinnati.
There seems to always be a wreck. Today there was another one, and they shut the tunnel down going from 71 down to 75 where it meets. And I had to find an alternative route real quick because I got stuck there yesterday for almost 2 hours. It was not fun.
That really sounds terrible. Were you able to catch a nap while you were waiting?
No, I drive a day cab. I didn't drive a day cab before now. There's nowhere to lay down. The last time I had to wait for somebody to come get me or help me or whatever, I ended up going in the store and looking for a blanket just to lay down on the floor because it was so nasty. And I ended up buying trash bags and a roll of paper towels. And I used the paper towels as a pillow, and I took the trash bags and laid them across the floor, and I finagled my way onto the floor and took a nap.
My God, I've done that before.
You do realize that some of the best naps I've ever had in my life came from inside a day cab truck, right?
Well, good for you.
Jason Akins, how are you, my friend? How is your week, man?
I'm not good. I'm not good right now.
Why not?
Well, I'm going to tell you why. As you know, planted what for me was a large garden.
You've been an amateur farmer this year, right?
I am an amateur farmer, and I take a lot of pride in that, and was looking very much forward to consuming the product of my toil. I knew that I would be faced with problems from the deer. I knew that was going to be a problem. So I thought, okay, I'm going to go ahead and fortify and get ready because my war is with the deer.
Okay.
So I put up this really great scarecrow. I mean, he's a good scarecrow. It's got a gourd for a head.
Did you take a selfie and staple it to the gourd?
I didn't have to because I drew a face on it.
I need to see this. Is it something that
Yes,
nightmares are made of?
I need to see this Scarecrow as well.
I will take a picture and I will send it to both of you. This Scarecrow is excellent. This Scarecrow has been doing his job up until 2 nights ago. And I go through yesterday and I'm checking my okra and my purple hull peas, and I noticed somebody's been eating them. And it's not a rabbit, because there's no rabbit that's going to eat that much. I know what it is. And my next step in this war is to go with chemical agents. I'm going chemical. I'm dropping the chemicals on them, and I'm going to put liquid fence out to try to keep them away from my okra. If that doesn't work, then I'll have to go sonic, and I'll have to get one of those things that puts out a sonic blast that only deer can hear.
You know what? If my grandmother was sitting here right now listening to you talk about okra, she'd say the first thing that's wrong is you're not pronouncing okra right. It's not okra. It's okry.
Okry. Well,
you got to call it right. It's okry.
Now, I grew up, my grandmother coming to this house that I live in now, and her say, hey, get you some okra and put it in a poke.
You got to get a mess of it.
Get you a mess of okra and put it in a poke.
That's right. I have gotten many a mess of okra.
Yeah, I never have been sure what the exact quantity of a mess was. I think it's in the eye of the beholder.
It is. Some people's messes is bigger than others.
Is that English or metric?
I think it's neither. I think it's just country.
It's Appalachian.
Kind of like an acre. I don't really think we know the exact measurements of an acre. Some people, an acre is a whole lot bigger than others.
I know that's right. Some people are that way about a lot of things.
That's right. Oh Lord, my week has been a little interesting. I lost my wallet.
Yeah.
You did tell us that yesterday.
I did. I don't know how y'all are, but with me, my wallet has got just about everything in my life in it. Now, I was going to meet a couple of friends of mine who happened to be down on Smith Lake this weekend from Memphis. Y'all know that I like to go to Memphis a lot, and I've got a lot of friends up there. And shout out to any of you that happen to be listening to this. I will see you soon. I was getting ready to go and meet with them and have a dinner, and I started feeling around, and my wallet was gone, and I automatically panicked. It's one thing for me to misplace my keys. I misplace my keys all. Yeah, I might misplace my cell phone every once in a while. I might misplace my earbuds every once in a while. But I hardly ever misplace my wallet. So I'm freaking out. Calling the last place that I purchased anything, they hadn't seen it. Naturally, they hadn't seen it. So I'm automatically thinking the worst. Somebody's already snatched everything out of it and threw it in the trash and everything like that. And of course, they're not going to report it. You remember how we used to have to do cell searches, Jason?
Oh, yeah. Start at the top, left to right, left to right.
I went into CO mode looking for this wallet.
Yep.
I tossed my own house looking for it.
I hear you.
I finally just gave up. I started calling each credit card place and canceling cards. You know, I hadn't got but two. That's too many, but I hadn't got but two. Canceled my debit card. And then lo and behold, it was found in the couch. Yep. After I already canceled everything, it was found in the couch.
I used to date people that would just start accusing everybody they could and said that was the mathematics behind finding whatever it is.
I had already come up with a plan to hurry up and get to the courthouse to pay for another copy of my driver's license so I could be legal and everything like that. Done sent a text message to my dispatcher, whole 9 yards. Lo and behold, my couch ate it.
Well, you know, there are physicists put forth over the past few years several different theories concerning alternate realities, parallel dimensions, parallel realities. I think the couch, the cushions, there's something to be said for interdimensional travel.
You might be on to something, and this might be a new revelation for everybody. Right here on Porch Matters, it's very well possible that there could be a portal to another dimension inside of a couch, because anything that goes in that dadgum thing, you can hardly ever find it.
Well, let's go on with dryers next, because that is like the biggest portal to another dimension. Socks get lost in there all the time.
Every time you wash them. 2 will enter, 1 will leave.
Yes, that's right. 2 will enter, 1 will leave. Busted deal, spin the wheel.
This podcast is brought to you by Anchor. It is the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. It's free to use, which means you don't have to put out any money to get on this platform and start your own podcast. There's creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, and many more. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Rest in peace, George Floyd. What happened to that man is an absolute disgrace to anybody that has ever wore a badge or will ever wear a badge. My heart hurts for him. My heart hurts for his family. When I seen it, as I'm getting choked up now because it bothers me and it hurts me to my core to even watch that video. I don't see color. I saw a man. I saw a man that was handcuffed, and a very big piece of trash had his knee on that man's neck. A piece of trash that was wearing a badge. Something that I did for close to 10 years, and I took dadgum a lot of pride in doing it. My heart hurts for him, and my heart hurts for that family. What happened to him is inexcusable. What happened to him is disgraceful. What happened to him is disgusting. Do you agree?
I can agree to that.
Oh, yeah. I mean, absolutely.
When I seen that, I automatically just got filled with rage, just like anybody else. I think the country was united for that split second. Whenever everybody saw that, if they are a good-hearted person who don't want to see anybody get wronged, that's what they saw. They didn't see nothing but rage.
The whole country got mad at that.
I'm still mad.
Yeah, I'm pretty mad too. And when we were talking about during this conversation, I mean, this is such a big, there's so many topics that fall under what happened to him. There's so many doors that have been opened, whether or not people called him a martyr or people, use this as a symbolism against the system or however it is anybody looked at it, every which way there was nothing but anger. So when you said that we were going to talk about this, I was going to try to approach it with a non-bias bias to either side of it, because I understand anger. I understand why people get mad. What I don't like is the things that happen that follow.
I don't like what has followed after.
And people are trying to justify what happened to him and doing those same acts to other people. And of course, the coverage isn't there. Everybody's been talking about how the coverage isn't there for the people that lost their lives since this has happened. Clearly, the man that did this is guilty. And I've never been a police officer. My father was a police officer, and he hated the system. But he would tell you any day that he was in a corrupt part of the system. That people were getting promoted around him that had charges that should have got them fired and gotten their badge taken away. So I understand to a degree, but it's trying to think about what was in that guy's mind when he did that. And I was trying to come from a place of, let's all look at it like this.
Jason, we can hear every dadgum thing you're doing, right?
That's not Jason. That's Patricia.
You have the power to mute him if you need to.
Don't mute me. I will not be silent.
Well, you need to sit down and be quiet, dadgummit.
Okay, I'm being good.
Melissa, please continue.
Everybody's angry. It's so easy to go to anger. Now, that cop clearly was in the wrong. What I'm about to say is not in defense of this cop. Okay, he clearly needs to look at his actions. To me, I saw a man that has been on the force too long. I saw a man who saw a criminal before anything. Whether or not he was black or white or whatever, he saw a criminal, and he treated that man like a criminal. But he treated him to a degree where he seemed to be fed up with a lot of stuff. He took his rage or whatever it is he's going through out on that man, which wasn't right. But I can understand anger. Anybody can understand anger and what people do out of anger and frustration and all this other, all these things that happen. So I'm trying to see, I wonder what he's thinking. I wonder if anybody's talked to him to see why he decided that that's what was the right action. Clearly it wasn't. America's in total agreement that that was not the right action to take. You don't sit on a man's neck for almost 10 minutes because you're trying to detain him. Why did it take almost 10 minutes to put the cuffs on him, get him up, put him in the car? These are questions that we can't answer until I hear him say it. I haven't got to hear that part yet. Have you guys?
Jason, please correct me if I'm wrong. I haven't worn a badge in about 2 years. Use of force continuum states that you have to use equal or greater force to get compliance, correct?
Well, my understanding, I've had the same training you've had.
Yes, sir.
And that was something, unfortunately, that I don't think was discussed enough and clearly enough, because we were always in a state of emergency.
I agree wholeheartedly. It wasn't, the whole time I was there, it was talked about, but it never was embedded into your mind.
Exactly. Exactly.
And
My under-
I think that was one of the big problems with that.
yes, sir. My understanding of the force continuum, as you said, the use of force, was that you basically use the least, for lack of a better term, damaging methods possible to get a situation under control. In other words, you would start off with verbal commands. From verbal commands, you would move on to, or officer presence, then verbal commands. From verbal commands, you would move on to soft hands. From soft hands, you would move on to hard hands. From hard hands, you would move on to using a chemical agent, possibly. From that, you could go to a taser, or from the taser, you could go on to your what is commonly referred to as a billy club, which is, but for us, it was an ASP, a collapsible. And then, once you go from there, you're really getting into a gray zone. You come, if you feel like you have to use deadly force, and you would only use deadly force if you were having to protect your own life or the life of someone else. The Supreme Court's been pretty clear about when you can use deadly force and when you can't. That's with this particular situation, though, and I want to go back to some things, if it's okay, with what Melissa said. It's some things that I haven't heard a lot of people mention and have been a point of curiosity to me. If you watch the video, as we all did, and you're looking there watching it, the whole time you're thinking, what is going on? What are you doing? Hey, did you notice the look on the face and in the eyes of the officer? It's almost like he wasn't even there.
I saw evil dancing around in his eyes.
It was like there was nobody there.
It was the strangest thing I'd ever seen. And I'm not, I really can't say very much about this particular officer, because I believe during the trial, that's when information will come out.
It will.
Yeah. But one thing I do have a concern about, and we've talked about before, and it's a very big concern of mine, and this in no way is an excuse or a defense or anything like that. But I have been very concerned about post-traumatic stress disorder in officers and the compounding effect of that in some of these situations. When you have people who are working more hours than they should work, who are dealing with very stressful, traumatic events day after day, and they can't say anything about it, because if they say anything to their superiors, they're going to be labeled as the crazy guy and relieved of duty, never be trusted again. Their superiors don't want to hear it because they don't want the liability of being, okay, I said it was okay for the crazy guy to carry a gun. So treatment and the counseling is not in place like it should be. And I'm not saying that has any factor in this particular case, but I do believe we have a serious problem with that nationwide.
Yeah, I agree. And I don't think you were like stepping up in defense of that man at all. But like you said, it looked like he wasn't even there. It was just like there was a pure evil something that took over him, and he was just, that was what was going to happen.
It was very strange. It was very strange.
But you're right in the fact that, and I've talked about this before, and there isn't any evaluation, but then there's repercussions when it comes to that evaluation. Like you said, you don't get to work anymore, you don't get to support your family, and
you're the crazy guy.
Yeah, you're the crazy one now because you said something, and that's reprehensible behavior all of a sudden, and it shouldn't be. But again, this is not defense of this man. But then, he should, if he even had any kind of sign of that, I don't know how hard it is for people to, I really don't. I'm not saying this as a negative. I'm just saying, how hard is it to go, I need to take a step back from this before something bad happens. But, I know my temper. I know how I get when I get a bad temper, and I can get violent. But that was one time, a long time ago. But since then, I've taken steps to correct that behavior in me. But I'm not a law enforcement officer, and I don't have to deal with anything like that on a daily basis. I just have to deal with traffic, and I have to deal with other people's actions of what's going on the road. That's my job. My job isn't to, with force or, I'm not here there to enforce the law.
I can speak to this with complete and total honesty. I never lost control. Jason, if I'm wrong, correct. But
if you will, let me go a step further.
Okay.
I was with you in some pretty unstable situations. And due to your size, and for those in the listening audience that don't know, Mr. Cagle is about 6'8".
6'7".
6'7", and at that time was around 400 to 450 pounds. One of the strongest humans I've ever been around. You would hold yourself back because you did not want your size to cause an injury.
I had to, because with me being the size that I was, the use of force continuum worked against me, because that is also one of the parameters. Size difference is or differential, however you want to, I can't really remember the legal term, but it works against people that are bigger. Whereas if other people are smaller, you can escalate into higher uses of force if you need to, based off of the size difference. Go ahead, Melissa.
Okay, you said you were in that for 10 years, right? You were a badge for 10 years, right? How long did you do it, Jason?
About 9 years.
Okay, at any point in time when, you were on the job and you had that badge on, was there ever a time where you looked at the situation and said, I can't do this part because it's going to get bad if I do? Did you ever have to take a step back and let somebody else take control?
I did on 2 different occasions.
Yeah, well, it's good that you recognize that. I wonder, I don't know how long that man had been on the force, but I wonder if it gets harder the longer you go. Because just with any job, pride takes place. And if you're the senior officer, because I think those other fellows were just joining the force, right?
Mm-hmm.
The scuttlebutt that I've read, I don't know how true it is or not, but that also adds another wrinkle to this story. Because I think 2 of the 4 had only been on the force allegedly. I'm not trying to speak out of term because I don't know how if it was fake news or if it's real, but according to what I read, they had only been on the force 3 or 4 days, even though they had already been shown to be an officer since December. I don't know the details as to how long the academy is in Minnesota. Down here, it's 12 or 14 weeks.
14.
Yeah. The last 2 of the academy is actually jail training.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how long the curriculum is up there for police academy or whatever, but from the scuttlebutt that I read, the guy that actually had the knee and everything on George Floyd was their training officer.
Yeah, so I was going to try to make a comparison to that because, like I said, I was a driver, right? And I had to train people how to drive. I'm kind of comparing myself to if he were me in my position of work. Okay, and now I was a trainer for 2 years. I've only been driving for 7. And I'd get people in the truck with me sometimes that have already driven, and they've been doing it for a while. And as the term goes on, people call them super truckers. These are people who think they know everything already, and there's nothing else further they can learn. To me, I tell people, the moment you think you know it all, you need to get off the road, because that's when you become the most dangerous.
I used to say the same thing in the jail.
Yeah, well, I would say that about, any kind of profession that somebody's life is at stake. It's hard for people that have been doing it for a long time to look back at the habit of a new person or a trainee of some sort, because they've been there for so long, and that pride takes over, and automatically they know more. Of course they have more experience, but there's always something you can take away or something you can learn. And like you guys said, you had to take yourself out of a situation because you couldn't trust yourself, right?
Mm-hmm. There was a couple of instances where I was about to lose it. One time in particular, the inmates saw it. They were asking me to calm down. And I figured if it was done to the point where inmates was asking me to calm down, I needed to get out of there. And I actually had to go outside and walk around for a little while.
Well, see, in our instance, it's very recognizable when you see one of these super truckers. They're very recognizable. You can see their behavior. These are people that know they know it all, and there's nothing you can do to fix that. And I wonder if it's the same way in that field. If you ever come across an officer who knows he knows it all, and there's no wrong he can do, huh?
Every day.
It's very common. Very common.
It's hard for people to look at that and go, you need to take a step back. But that's more of what needs to start happening in whatever field that somebody's life is in danger or could be in danger.
And I'll go a step further. There were a few times, emotionally, I should not have been dealing with a situation, but I had to. It would have been much more helpful if someone another officer had put a hand on me and said, hey, I got this, step back. But a lot of times officers are very reticent to do that because, one, they don't want to put another officer in a position where they feel like they're being disrespected or that type of thing. And 2, especially with patrol officers, depending on the hierarchy, a lot of times they're afraid that they'll be retaliated against, or they'll be labeled as, you're not a team player, you're not one of the guys.
Yeah.
And that's a very powerful force.
You're supposed to present a united front in front of the public and or inmates. Okay, if you ever have any discrepancies or anything like that, that's handled in private. Whenever you're in front of the public or whenever you're in front of inmates, that was always the understood rule back whenever you didn't talk down to an officer in front of inmates or the public.
I wonder if one of those officers would have been like, look, if one of the officers would have been like, you're doing too much force, that's too much force. Or one of the people recording the incident got in his face and got the attention off of what he was doing, because clearly he was had. Maybe he would be alive. I mean, there's so many things, there's so many factors that could take place and to change the outcome, but the outcome was what happened. He died, and it was not a just death. I can agree to that completely and 110%. He shouldn't have died that way.
To the government's credit, I know I have never seen investigation or anything like that on an officer. I've never seen warrants been issued and everything so quickly. Jason, have you?
No, I have not. Now, there was a little bit of discord to start with because the people who were upset and protesting, it took a little while to get the charges filed and to arrest him.
Yeah, it took
and then
2 or 3 days.
It took 2 or 3 days where you had a lot of people who were like, listen, if the shoe had been on the other foot and he killed and George Floyd killed him in the same manner, he would have been arrested immediately.
I agree with that.
So I think I can see their problem with that. At the same time, I agree with what you're saying. For an officer, this proceeded pretty quickly.
Yeah. Usually it takes a whole lot longer than that.
Yeah.
I believe in a peaceful protest to get your point across, but with all the violence that has happened and all the cops that have been shot and just the people alone in Chicago that got killed over Memorial Day weekend over this stuff in the name of George Floyd, I wonder if any of that would have been minimalized if people got to hear him talk and say what he needed to say, whether it be I'm sorry, or he could have even furthered the outrage by saying I was just doing my job. Clearly, he wasn't.
Make no mistake about it. And if this offends anybody, I don't care. Sorry. I'm not sorry. There is a big difference between a protest and a riot.
Agreed.
Okay. Protest, I have absolutely no problem with. I will join and support you fully. A riot? No. You'll get no support from me.
I have a real problem with the way the media is covering this. And, I think that the anger is directed in the wrong direction, to be honest. Because people, and this is another touchy subject, this is totally my opinion, but I've done a lot of research with statistics and all that other stuff. People don't like to hear that, I know. But when it comes to the events that have taken place, they claim discrimination and white privilege and all these other things. But there's not a law today that will discriminate. There are racist people, and that will never change. You cannot change the thought process of a person, but you also don't have to associate with them either. I totally agree with that. I don't see discrimination in the sense that they do because it's not written in the law system. I can't account for their personal experiences with people, but I know many people who are way more successful than me that are of a different race. And it's not just black people. It's Asian people, Indian people, Mexicans, Spanish people, Puerto Rican people. I mean, they're people doing better than me. It's not because of their race. It's because of the work they put into it. Now, again, personal experiences aside, we all have personal experiences. I have personal experience of discrimination myself, being a woman in the truck driving industry, or just being a woman, period, or my sexual orientation. I've been discriminated against left and right, but that's my path. I knew it was going to be hard. And I wonder, I don't like that division that all of a sudden, like I haven't seen race or color in any form for the past couple of years because I didn't have to. My interactions with people was just how it was. It was at face value, or I made some really good connections. All of a sudden, I'm forced to say black and white, man, female. I'm forced to say that. And I feel like I'm forced to say it because everybody else is starting to say it and just put that clear line there. And I don't like that line.
That's me. My daddy taught me from the moment that I was little until the day he died. You don't judge somebody by the color of their skin. You judge it by the character on the inside. I have had friends, good friends, loyal friends that weren't the same pigmentation that I was. I judge somebody by their character. I don't judge them by their skin. I think the majority of people across this country think the way I do.
I feel the exact same way.
And I think the smaller percentage.
I totally disagree.
I think the smaller percentage of the ones that are fueled with hate, don't matter what race they are, I think they're the ones that get all the spotlight.
I think it's much more subtle than that. I don't think we're talking about skinheads marching around. I don't think we're talking about people that when you see them and the way they act, you can tell right off the bat that they're supporters of the Ku Klux Klan. I think it's much more subtle than that.
How big really is the Ku Klux Klan now as compared to the 1940s and 50s and 60s? How big are they now?
Oh, gosh, I have no idea.
They don't get any attention for what they do, or they don't get any, even if they are, or if they believe that, as long as it's done in nonviolence, that's the way they believe. I'm not in supporting of it, but I don't want to be a part of that.
Well, let me give you an example. If you were paying much attention the past day or two to your Facebook, social media, whatever kind of social media, and the news, you could see where I'm not sure what the company is, or companies, but whatever companies own Aunt Jemima pancake mix and Uncle Ben's rice have decided that we're going to kind of discontinue this as our advertisement because it's really not a very flattering thing to use Aunt Jemima and Uncle Ben as, the advertisement for these products.
Why?
Have you ever looked at the pictures?
I sure have. And you know what I see when I see Aunt Jemima? Some damn good syrup. And I see a home healthy woman that has provided for her family. That's what I see when I see Aunt Jemima. Uncle Ben's, that is so damn delicious to Bryce. I love it. It's great.
I'll tell you what most people see and the black community sees. They see a stereotype that's 100 years old. They see indignity. And I'm going to tell you, I challenge you to do this. Go to 20 black women tomorrow and call them Aunt Jemima and tell them you remind me of Aunt Jemima and see how they react to it.
Well, no, nowadays I can't do that.
Go to 20 black men and say, you're Uncle Ben. Hey, Uncle Ben, you like Uncle Ben on the rice. And tell me how they react to it. And I'll tell you right now, they have had to put up with that for a long time. But for some reason, white people think they have some kind of inherent right.
Oh, you believe in white privilege?
Absolutely. Because why would a white person get upset because they're taking away the image of Aunt Jemima or Uncle Ben? Because they think they have the right to that.
No, that's not why.
They don't care about the indignity to the black community. They think they have a right to that.
No, that's not why. It's sudden.
I'm going to tell you, there are some serious issues out there, and they are very subtle, and we've grown up with them thinking they're okay, but they're not okay because they're okay to the majority.
You said the Aunt Jemima thing. It's 100. They've been using that same image for 100 years, and the past 2 days it's been a problem. The past 2 days.
It should have been done 20 years ago or 30 years ago.
Whoever looked at that and went, "That's what I see when I see every black woman." I look at that and go, that is an old brand. That is a brand that's been around. That's exactly what they look like then.
Does that justify it?
Everybody looked like then.
Does it justify it that it's been around a long time?
There's
some black mammy like a minstrel show from 100 years ago where people were in blackface acting silly.
That's what they had. I can't attest to that, but it's suddenly a problem. And what the problem is from coming from white people. It was a problem
for years.
No, it wasn't a problem. It's
nobody cared. Go ask black people.
Now it's a problem. Now I can ask somebody. But 10 years ago, if I'd have asked anybody, they'd have said, "It's Aunt Jemima's pancake stuff." I mean,
you think if you had gone to black people 10 years ago and said, "Hey, Aunt Jemima," and started calling them Aunt Jemima, they've been okay with that?
Nobody would be okay with being called a name that's not their name. If you walked up to me and said, "Hey, Hillary," I'd be mad.
It's more than that. I grew up seeing the picture with the scarf on her head and looking like a slave and looking like some mammy off the Gone with the Wind. And there is nobody that goes around saying, "Hey, Aunt Jemima," like that's a good thing. So that's usually a punchline or you're trying to be funny.
Nobody does that. Who does that for real? Who does that? Say, you remind me of Aunt Jemima.
I've heard it a bunch of times growing up. I've heard it a lot.
You've heard that a lot growing up.
Yeah.
How old are you now?
45.
Okay, I'm 35, and I have never in my life heard that till just now. And I grew up in Alabama too.
I don't know. I can't speak for your experience. I have heard that. And people in the laugh. Oh, everybody knows what they're saying, what they mean by it.
Well, then in that case, I suppose would be seen as racism. But when I look at that brand, I don't see slavery. I don't see that. It's a brand name. And what people get upset about is the fact it's sudden change. It suddenly has to change because it's suddenly become a problem. And it's like, why? You're right. Why wouldn't it change 20 years ago? Because there wasn't any attention brought to it. I bet you didn't walk around going, "Oh my God, that needs to change."
Well, of course not. And think about it. There's a lot of stuff we don't think about, but that doesn't mean it's right.
Why is it all of a sudden in today's society, in today's world, where everybody has the equal right and opportunity, why is it now the problem? Why wasn't it a problem when the problems were actually occurring?
When were the problems actually occurring?
When there were such thing as Jim Crow laws, when the Ku Klux Klan did run things, when there was segregation, when people were taught.
Let me tell you why. Because they were being lynched. Because there were laws that kept them in place. That's why They didn't speak up. That's why
That's what,
it was
yeah.
okay.
What about when it was
that was
lifted?
enforced by code of law. The indignity, we're the majority. They represent 12% of the country. 12%, okay?
See, this is where lines are drawn.
That's why nobody spoke up in the 60s. That's
I
why
didn't
nobody
say in the
spoke up
60s.
in the 50s,
I said, why not 20 years ago?
70s.
Why not 20 years ago?
Well, I don't know. I don't know if anybody spoke up 20 years ago or not. I have no idea.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Suddenly, because now there's racism in everything you look at. Everybody sees racism in everything you look at, whether it's the kind of car you drive.
No, I don't think that's the case. I don't think they see it in everything. I think they look at that and say, you know what? Maybe we don't want to be portrayed as a black mammy from the 1850s.
That's fine. I totally understand that. I totally agree with it. But you know, like for instance, the face of the face of Black Lives Matter. You know what it's becoming? An Antifa. Do you know what the face is coming now? It's the riots. It's the dead. Yeah, the faces. Their public image of what they are. Do you know what they're becoming? It's not that Aunt Jemima and Uncle Ben that they're upset about. They are absolutely violent people. They are becoming that.
Who is violent people?
Black Lives Matter and Antifa.
So you're saying Black Lives Matter and Antifa is the same thing?
These organizations are behind the violence that have happened in the past couple
So Black Lives Matter is behind the violence.
These are Black Lives Matter protests. These are Antifa protests, and during their protests, these people died.
You're gonna have to provide some type of proof of that.
I can put you a collage together tonight with a bunch of videos from many different cities of these people marching for Black Lives. Look at Seattle.
What?
That's one example right there.
What's in Seattle?
They have barricaded the city. They won't let anybody
city, the whole city of Seattle?
No, not the whole city, but a block. And they are taking law in their own hands.
Actually, it's about
they are lynching people. This is Black Lives Matter and Antifa. They are lynching people and taking the laws in their own hands.
They're hanging people.
Not hanging. I'm sorry, that's the wrong definition. But they are beating the snot out of anybody who just walks through that has the wrong shirt on, or they don't want them in that area. They're doing it to anybody. They're saying that's their law system now.
And you're positive that they are a part of Black Lives Matters.
Whether or not they are or not, they're flying the BLM and they're flying the Antifa stuff. They're flying those banners in the name.
But anybody can do that. I can do that right now.
It's still putting the face to that. Anything you do is promoting that organization if you have those things on you. Now, if Black Lives Matter, the actual organization, said we don't affiliate with that, that's not what we're about, that's one thing. But they haven't done that. They're just sitting there and watching these people beat the snot out of innocent people for walking down the street, just for walking down the street. This is what the face has become. Would they rather that face or the Aunt Jemima face if they had a choice? Now, I agree with you in the retrospect of, yes, those things should change. It's not that big a deal to me if it changes, but I know why the people are mad. It's sudden change. People don't like sudden change, and for the reasons that are behind it.
That's what people have to ask themselves. When I say people, I'm talking about white people, because we're in the majority in this country. You can laugh all you want, but we're the majority. We're the majority.
Not for very much longer, but yeah, we are the majority.
Well,
we are the majority. We have the majority of the power. We always have.
Listen, you're drawing lines here. You're saying black.
So if you're going to take, now all of a sudden, I'm going to be upset because you've taken my Aunt Jemima cake batter away from me.
It's the principle behind it.
Look at social media and see how many white women were furious that they all of a sudden they don't have their Aunt Jemima face on their pancake batter mix. There is a serious problem.
Well, to me, when you're going to the grocery store, that's all you look for is the image. That's what you look for.
That's not what they were upset about.
I know what they're upset about. I'm telling you, it's the sudden change and it's the principle behind it. And people just get mad. It's easy to get mad. To me, I don't care. If you want to change the image, change your image. That's what the company chooses to do. I can't tell them what to do. That's fine, but I understand where the big rage comes from. It's sudden change, and they don't feel like it's warranted because of the imagery that the Black Lives Matter has become.
I don't think it's just because of Black Lives Matters. I think these people don't even think about Black Lives Matters.
You're right. It's been forced in our face all of a sudden.
No, I think they don't like the change because they like things to be the way they are, and they don't want anybody to step out of line and speak up and say, "I'm not going to take that anymore."
That's not it at all. That's not it at all.
Oh, you don't think so?
There is a constructive way to do it. And the way it's been done is not constructive at all.
What's the better way?
You follow you have to work with the system to make the system work with you.
They have been asking for years. The city of Birmingham started asking 5 years ago to have the Confederate monument removed from Lynn Park. The state legislature passed a law forbidding them from removing it, so they covered it. They said, no, you must uncover it. How long do people have to go before they say, listen, we're not going to wait for another 100 years?
So you think killing people and killing cops is the way to get things done?
I don't even know what you're talking about. Killing cops is the way to get things done. I don't even know what you're talking about with that.
Since George Floyd has died, there have been a many number of cops, black cops alike, that have been shot for just sitting in their car.
Absolutely. Yeah, I know there have been police officers that have died. Yeah, of course.
This is just since George Floyd has been killed. There have
Right.
been a large number. So
there has been over 100 police officers that have been killed since George Floyd's incident.
Wait a second, 100?
Yes.
That's
Yes.
I don't. I
It's not covered by the media.
I've heard. I have not even heard close to 100.
I have.
Not
The
even worth
numbers
close
are
to.
rising.
By who? Who's putting that number out?
Many news sources. The FBI's put that out.
Who are-
Police
the FBI?
departments have put that out.
That needs to
Where
be
do you got to get your numbers in order for you to see that this is happening?
something that's legitimate. Something legitimate besides a conspiracy theory site.
FBI is conspiracy theory all of a sudden?
Oh, my Lord.
I
FBI?
have not seen one news report that said 100. If 100 officers were killed in the past 2 weeks, that's a big number in 2 weeks. That's huge.
That's the point I just made. I just made that the media is not covering it. This is where the conspiracies come in. It's not going along with the agenda. It's not going along. Nobody wants to see the cops got killed because everybody's so angry about George Floyd being killed. Nobody wants to see the cops.
But 100 cops is a lot of cops.
This is
That's a lot of cops. But that's what I'm saying. I've seen as 5. I've seen 6, but I haven't seen 100. That's a big number.
Well, even just 6. If it was just 6, is it warranted because George Floyd
No, of
died?
course.
Want to get
It's not
away?
warranted. It's not warranted for anybody.
That's what people see when they see these changes. They see these dead people that have died in the name of this thing. This is why people get mad, because this is not the way to change things. You don't solve violence with violence. You don't.
I agree, but that's not the only thing that's going on right now.
But you can't get your voice and you can't get out there if you're being portrayed as violent individuals. You can't get anything out there and be taken seriously. That's why people get mad. I
agree with that. I totally understand what you're saying there. You're right. That is one thing, that's something that upsets people, and it's terrible for anybody to die.
Yeah, so this is why I keep saying we need to come to some kind. This is why I wanted to approach this with no anger. The numbers don't lie. You said the black population counts for 12 to 13% of the American population, correct? 7% of those, this is an actual number, 7% of them are black males. They attest for over half of the violent crimes that take place in the United States. That's the number.
Where do those numbers come from?
That's the FBI statistics. That's police statistics. That's just coming straight from Chicago and the big cities, Minneapolis and all these other places that don't have, I don't want to get political with that, but they don't have.
So half of the violent crimes in this country are being perpetrated by black males is what you're saying.
Yes, that's an actual number.
I don't know. I haven't seen that number. I can't sit here and agree or disagree.
Yeah, I did my homework before I came here with this. And this is where the lines are drawn. Now, before then, I would have seen that. I wouldn't have even looked at that number. I wouldn't even looked at the fact that 12% of the United States population is made up by African American or black people. I see people. We're all a nation. That's what I saw. So I was trying to get united. There's no way to come to any kind of common ground without people putting down their sticks, putting down their guns, putting down everything, and taking a breath back and step back and say, listen, this is what we are angry about. And we finally feel like we have a voice, and these things need to change. That I can listen to that.
Now that is something that I can wholeheartedly agree with.
They've been doing that for years.
No, they haven't.
Yes, they have.
Where?
Yes, they have. Colin Kaepernick. Everybody went crazy. Everybody went nuts. Black Lives Matters has been around for years. Been around for years. And why people have not listened at all?
Because you can't take them seriously. When they go
because it's a peaceful protest. That's why they didn't take them seriously.
No, they don't take them seriously either. Okay, here's another number for you. Most of the crimes that are committed on black families are done by other black people.
But that's a totally different subject. What you're getting into is black on black crime.
No.
That's not
this
what
is where
killed
Black
George
Lives
Floyd.
Matter. Black Lives Matter comes into play with this also.
No, that's not what's going on.
Why are they
You're
not?
trying to deflect. You're trying to deflect.
This is not deflecting.
Yes, it is.
They only show up. They only show up When something violent has happened,
That is not true.
I
That
have
is
never
not
seen
true.
them show up under any other
I
circumstance.
can tell you right now, Abraham Woods in Birmingham, I have seen the rallies. They work in their communities when it comes to the black on black crime. That they don't just ignore it. I assure you that.
Okay, but why?
Hang on, Melissa. I'm jumping in here for just a second. Abraham Woods, who is he? I've never heard of him.
He was a member of the civil rights movement, and he was very active in Birmingham. And I witnessed the marches and the rallies against black on black crime in the city of Birmingham. I can't speak for any other city, but I know for a fact that the black community works on that particular. And a lot of times they get absolutely attacked by the far right and conservatives because they'll do gun buyback programs and things like that in a desperate effort to get guns off their streets. So don't tell me that they don't care about black on black crime. But this isn't about black on black crime. This is the state murdering black people. That's what they're raising hell about. That's what they're upset about. It's police officers and the state. The power of the state has nothing to do with me, any white person, or a black person. It's the state.
I agree with you on that 110%. So why in the world won't Black Lives Matter go to the police department and the law system and say, what can we do to help you clean up our communities of this crime? Why can't they go do that?
I would think they probably have done that and were ignored.
It's never even been.
Well, you can't say that. You don't know that. I
haven't seen numbers or any instance where they've tried. I haven't seen that.
Neither one of us have because we haven't researched it.
I've researched them into a lot. There's not.
So you've researched if Black Lives Matters has gone to law enforcement.
Yes, I've tried to find some kind of evidence on that because me and Terry have talked about that, and I wanted to see if they actually did try that because I don't want to discredit anybody for trying everything they can.
That's not what we're here to do.
No, I don't. I'm not doing that at all. I want just as much as anybody to give everybody the equal right that anybody does to walk outside and feel safe. I want to give everybody that same opportunity to go in there without having somebody be hateful, but you're never going to get rid of that hateful person. But there are steps you can take to get rid of that hateful person without having to get violent. And that's And so this is why I'm saying right now, to me, Black Lives Matter is skewed at the fact that everybody who's wearing their stuff, purchasing their merchandise, and going out in the name of Black Lives Matter and killing people and destroying their
Wait. So you said everybody that's wearing Black Lives Matter and supporting them is going out. You just said it's going out and killing people. That is not true. They are not going out and killing people.
Don't twist my words. I didn't say that.
I'm saying what you just said.
Is doing it. I said everybody who is doing it. Those people who are promoting Black Lives Matter and then going out and doing that by wearing the merchandise and doing this. I didn't say everybody. I've seen peaceful protesting. I'm totally for that. Please do that. Please find out what you can do. But the moment you get into somebody's business and you start tearing it apart because you're mad and you're wearing that Black Lives Matter shirt.
That's unacceptable.
You're right.
It's unacceptable.
They're still wearing that shirt. And many companies alike will tell you not to support any kind of thing when you're going to do something because it discredits their name.
I have seen several videos where there have been people involved in Black Lives Matter protests that have actually told people that were amongst them that were trying to cause trouble, that were trying to destroy things to get out of their protest. Now, I will say that everybody that has been wearing Black Lives Matter stuff and whoever has been supporting Black Lives Matter, everybody has not been setting stuff on fire. Everybody hasn't been doing all that stuff. You've got people that are in there that may be wearing their garb, throwing up their hand signs, doing whatever else, but they don't have that group's best interest at heart.
I agree.
And they are there to just stir up crap and be violent. And I think that's part of what y'all are talking about, and I think that's a common ground that both of you can come to on that.
Yeah, I can. Yes, I've seen protests. I've seen peaceful protests, but I think, and this is my opinion, and I really wish they would hear this, that the founders of Black Lives Matter would go and discredit that kind of behavior and say, we do not support that. That's not what we're about, and make it very public so people will stop doing that. because they don't
Agreed.
understand that they're doing it in their name, and it's
Agreed.
discrediting them completely.
If it was me and I started up any kind of organization, no matter what the means was, if there were people out there doing things that weren't representative of my brand or my cause, I would definitely want to call them on the floor. What about you, Jason?
No, I agree. And I can't comment extremely far on that because I don't know what all they have said in reference to what you're saying. At the same time, I think things got out of control.
Not only did things get out of control there, they got out of control here a little bit.
No, this was fantastic. I think this is great.
It's hard to listen to, folks, but this is stuff that needs to be talked about.
It is, and it's absolutely not in any way. This is all in love. I think we have to put it in a historical context to a certain. I mean, we have this did not. History did not. I was born in 1975. History did not begin in 1975. History was
your history did.
My history did.
Yeah.
You're right.
In your eyes, 1975 was one heck of a year, sir.
Best year ever.
1981 was the best year ever, but I'm partial.
You're very partial. But,
why? Because a legend was born, sir, on December 16th, 1981 at 2:30 in the morning.
And folks, I've had to endure this for over a decade.
Hey, I'm a legend in my own mind, and somebody's got to think so. It might as well be me, right?
Well,
what I'm saying is this has been building for decades and decades. And there comes a point, like with anything else, where there's an explosion and a reckoning, and then you bring in people who are you bring in all kinds of folks. Some folks who are not truly trying to change things, but are just there to raise hell, and they become the noise. You get the noise from both sides. If we could push the noise from both sides to the side and have the actual conversation, that is where the solution is, in my opinion.
I was about to say the same thing, but I know you said history plays a big part in this, and I agree. And that used to make me mad when I heard that, because history is history, now is now. We can never move forward without looking at now. But what I hear now, after looking at it from many different perspectives, is that whole community is in pain and they want to be heard. That's what I hear. And I would definitely love to give them a voice and then try to come to a common ground. What I don't like is them telling me how I should act. I'm going to keep an open mind. This is the most beautiful part about America, is we're allowed to have free thought, free speak, free everything. Oh, to a degree. Your personal and inalienable rights. But I'm not going to sit there and listen to you tell me what I need to do. What I need to do and what you need to do is come to an agreement. And I can attest to that.
That's all the time we have for this episode. Please like and follow us on Facebook at Porch Matters Podcast. Please subscribe or follow us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Anchor, or the platform of your choice so you don't miss an episode. If you're listening to us on Apple Podcasts, please rate the show and leave us a review if you have the time. Thank you very much for listening. And catch us next time, right here on Porch Matters.